Hey everyone, thank you for joining us here on YouTube for Pastors Unfiltered.
Give us a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Without further ado, here's this week's episode, Pastors Unfiltered.
Good day, everyone. Good to see ya. I just said every bun. Every bun. I can't believe it. It's a Thursday. That's how you know the weekend.
That is the most Arab you have ever spoke before. With
every bun. How are you doing?
Did you notice that in the intro, halfway through my intro, it gets to a really funky music in the background?
It really does. Because it really describes our friendship and our church. Yeah. I'm joined today. Welcome to Pastors Unfiltered, everyone. Here with my lovely co-host, the Reverend Dr. Brandon Lee Beals.
Raiders roll.
Hey, everybody.
Unbelievable. Do you want to talk about the NFL offseason real quick before we dive into everything?
The Seahawks look terrible. So all of you Seattle fans, you are in deep trouble. The Raiders signed an incredible defensive tackle.
Yeah.
We're pretty pumped about that.
You got your favorite tight end?
I know, and they signed Gardner Minshew. I had no clue that Gardner Minshew signed, but I got a text from Bob Rickey, who was announcing that he is transitioning to Raider Nation because Gardner Minshew's there.
Oh my!
And then I went and listened to a bunch of podcasts, and basically Gardner Minshew signed as a backup. They're drafting a quarterback in the first round. It's either going to be, supposedly they're going to trade up for Jaden McDaniel, or they're going to stay where they are and draft Penix. I want stay where they are, draft Penix.
I like that. Good for them. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us today. Another awesome episode. Last week we had so much fun with our friends Jake and Jackie talking about the Arab world. That was incredible. I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, Logos Bible Software. Thank you so much for sponsoring our content. We encourage you to check them out for all your Bible study needs. King Size Movie Reviews, Sean and Rebecca King's movie channel on Instagram, Facebook. Check them out. And lastly, PB, it's finally happened.
We're showing it off
Look,
on our
everyone.
YouTube channel. We have twin win shirts.
It finally happened. We're sponsored by HGTV.
Tony and I are committed to wearing these shirts, not taking them off for the next week.
Oh, yeah.
Everywhere we go, we're going to be wearing these shirts.
Date night, golfing, reading a book by the fire, doing it all. This shirt.
Hey, back to the episode we did with Jake and Jackie.
Yeah.
My mom listened to the episode and sent me this text message. I just want to know how you received this. Here's what my mom texted.
Oh, no.
She said, Brandon, the podcast with the two Egypt missionaries was fascinating. That was it. What does that mean?
That's it.
Good,
I
bad?
think she loved it. Fascinating.
All right.
A woman of many words.
We're not sure if Barb liked it or not.
I think she loved it. She said fascinating. I just can't believe we're finally wearing the shirts. Do you want to talk about how we finally got these shirts?
I did a corporate event for them where I did a leadership teaching for all of their staff. So all their staff from all their different businesses came together, and instead of compensating me, they gave me these T-shirts.
Quite comfortable. So thank you to HGTV.
No, it was a blessing. They have a really sharp staff. It was super fun.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of them.
I can't believe we're sponsored by a major network now, but whatever, man. That's pretty awesome. Hey, any lobby moments from Sunday?
Actually, lots. I actually had people come up to me and say, hey, this is going to be your lobby moment. But that's actually not even the most epic one, but I'll share both of them. So Zeb Seabrook had brought some friends to church. He introduced me to them. And then he says, every time you say Di and I on the podcast, it sounds like you're saying Dionysus. Which I got to be honest, I don't know what Dionysus is, but I'm sure it's bad.
Dionysus, like a Greek goddess or something?
Think so. Anyways,
yeah.
So he said that. No, it was at Discover 101, which for those of you that are listening that might not be a part of Venture, for everybody that's new to the church, once every 6 weeks, we do a dinner with pastor called Discover 101. It's all the new people in the church. It's amazing because we get to just see these extraordinary people that God is bringing to the church. And I met this couple, Nick and Samantha. For the longest time, I thought his name was Dan, so I kept referring to him as Dan. And then finally he goes, my name is Nick. And he's a Seattle police officer, so I'm not messing with a cop who can give me a ticket.
Oh, Lord.
But here's what's fascinating. They had dated for 16 years before they got married. They met when they were in junior high school at a Bible camp at Cannon Beach. Now, he is a Seattle police officer, and she is a buyer for Nordstrom's.
Oh.
Men's clothing.
Oh, shout out Top Man. I need to connect with her.
So I want her to become our sponsor.
Can she dress us?
He is the best dressed cop I've ever seen.
Oh, I'm
He
sure.
was telling me, he goes, I used to just wear shorts and a t-shirt until we got married, and now I'm like decked out in expensive Nordstrom's clothes always.
Do you know Cole Hasty was the #1 shoe salesman at Nordstrom? Like corporate wide.
When did he sell shoes at Nordstrom's?
He sold shoes for a little bit. I don't know when. He was at the Bellevue location. He was the #1 shoe salesman.
Did you know that while I was in Bible college, the history professor, Daryl Hobson, because Northwest pays so poorly, he also, in the evenings, had to sell shoes at Nordstrom's. So I would be in his class, and then I would think, I want to go buy a pair of shoes, and then he would be selling me shoes at Nordstrom's.
Daryl, can I get the Hokas in a size 10, please? That's awesome. I did not have a lobby moment this week. I just am blown away. I've mentioned this to you many times in private, but after being gone from the Mill Creek campus for so long, coming back, our church is just, I don't know how to describe it. It's just really consistent, healthy growth. Like the third service, I would say, is almost as large as our second service now.
Well, a little bit had to do with the fact that it was daylight savings time and everybody lost an hour of sleep.
Yep, that too. 8:30 it's large. Like it's a large gathering. They actually cheer you on now when you speak and whatnot. They're a little louder, which is good. But I'm just blown away by our church. That's our lobby moment. And I'm blown away by our cafe right now.
Yes. Claire Dayton not Claire.
What's her name? Audrey.
Audrey, the other one.
She's doing a good job.
She took over the cafe and is doing a great job.
Yeah, she's doing a good job. Worship was good. My friend Christopher Dayton was here at church on Sunday. He was weeping.
Oh, he came up to me afterwards
wept.
and said, I've heard a sermon on that text so many times, but you found insights that were so deep and meaningful. I cried through the whole thing. So it made me feel like I was good.
He is like a Bible scholar, so that was pretty cool. Well, hey, should we dive into today's content? We told everyone we would talk about a very hot article going around the entire Pacific Northwest, and I would love to chat through that.
Let me give everyone the update on what this article says. So the article came out in the end of February and basically shared information that for any of us that live in the Seattle area, we already know. But it came out that Seattle is very clearly the least churched area in America. So these are some of the stats. It's 64% of people in the Seattle area have not attended a religious gathering. And they include religious gathering to mean any religion anywhere. So most estimates say if you cut that 36% that actually go to a religious gathering in half, about 18% would share our Christian faith. So by far the least churched area in the nation, the most churched area in the nation, just guess.
Texas or Florida?
It's Dallas. The Dallas area,
Wow.
over 65 to 67% of people go to church on a regular basis. So Tony,
What are we doing here?
we need to plant more churches in Dallas.
Dallas needs to be saved.
Every church planting organization in America has 5 church planters proudly announcing and raising money for their Dallas
Hey, we're
area.
going to the Fort Worth
church
area.
plant.
We're so excited.
Yeah,
God's
people
got
need
to do
Jesus. So there's lots of shifting of chairs in buildings.
Jeez Louise.
Yes.
Well, as we dive in, do you want to introduce our special guest today?
Yes. We have the better half of the Mattar clan.
I agree.
Ariel Mattar is with us. We're going to dive a little bit more into the article, but we want to talk specifically about Venture's efforts in the Seattle area, kind of update everybody, tell you everybody what our plan is and what our belief is that we are going to do to change the momentum of Seattle being the least churched area. But Ariel, welcome.
Hi.
What do you have to say about Tony? Just give us some dirt on Tony.
Dirt on Tony. Actually, I was just talking about this at my girls' night.
No.
We were talking about how Tony uses shampoo and conditioner, and that's kind of odd because he doesn't have hair.
I still have follicles.
He still
and
has a scalp, so
follicles
the
develop
shampoo makes
grease.
sense, but the conditioner doesn't make any sense.
So when you first started dating Tony, how long ago was
He
that?
had hair. That was in 2011,
And so he had hair back then.
2012. He did. Yes.
Did you have any clue that you're going to be married to this
Yes.
in a short period of time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
She saw all my uncles.
Yeah. He met all his family. They were all bald by 25, so
Random.
pretty
Yeah.
normal.
I am speaking at Tacoma Life Center in a month, month and a half. And I follow Tyler Soley, the pastor at Tacoma Life Center, on Instagram. And he posted this picture because he's been at Life Center his whole life. And he posted a picture from when churches used to do those church directories.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's his family in a directory. And his dad is as bald as I've ever seen a person. Tyler has no shot. I looked at him and I went, you were on borrowed time with your hair, buddy.
Oh, man.
Genetics.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you fall in love with me when you first met me?
Sure. Yeah.
okay.
I don't think we're talking about that story today on the podcast.
No,
so.
we're not. We were interns.
I
And we
did
got,
want one
We were
story.
interns.
Yeah, we were
Is the
interns.
one story that Tony uses shampoo and conditioner?
Yeah. I just think it's odd. Mostly.
You don't want to talk about when we were interns, we got caught cuddling?
That is a funny story.
Yeah. Anyways, let's talk about Seattle.
You can't leave people hanging like that.
Yeah, we got in trouble because we cuddled.
We were not supposed to be dating because we were interns, and the internship had a policy at the time, which we then changed as the intern directors,
It was the first thing I changed.
because it just leads to a lot of people being annoyed. But the policy was that you couldn't date, so we weren't dating, but we liked each other. And Pastor Morgan Butcher caught us with his arm around me on the couch.
My goodness.
Comes in, PB.
We were in big
he
trouble.
sits down.
Big
It's
trouble.
all stoic, and he goes, guys, what am I supposed to do about this?
Did you guys have to go through the 2-year discipline restoration process?
8 months.
I mean, no, yeah, it was like, it was one of the dumbest moments of my life. I was like, I'm an actual adult, thank you, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Churches that had master's commissions in the past, I don't know, we can talk about master's commissions some other day. They had very strict requirements.
Yeah.
Basically made dating like the worst of all sins.
Yeah.
And so you're trying to tell 20-year-olds who everything inside of them is driving them towards the opposite sex, that they want to find who they're going to spend the rest of their life with. And you're saying, worst thing you can do is date. If you date, we're kicking you out of the program. And we wonder why an entire generation of millennials rebelled against God when we were treating them that way.
Shocked.
Anyways, let's go back to this article. A few
Did
things.
you read the comments on that article, by the way?
I did.
Yeah, I actually found the comments more interesting than the article, which is pretty par for the course on the internet. I feel like the comment section is always more interesting.
I think you had. I call the comments fell into 3 categories.
Yep.
You had the people that read the article, and then they would say things like, "That's right, we don't believe in religion, Mother Earth," and it was all kinds of things like that. Then there was the
people who don't live here who are hardcore Christians.
the hardcore right-winged Trumpites that
Yeah.
are like, that's why I moved. Seattle's going to hell.
Yeah.
It should just burn. The earth should open and suck it in. And then you had all of the venture people. Did you
they were
notice
like,
that?
We're going to save you.
We were like,
We love
this
you.
is why we love Seattle. And
Yep.
you literally go through the comments and you could tell who was from Venture
Yeah.
by the way that they
One
responded.
thing I saw as kind of a through line, though, and I think this will spur into some of our other conversation today, was that a lot of the people who lived in Seattle who don't follow Jesus, they would key into this. Like, I just saw this phrase over and over again, was that, like, yes, but we are spiritual.
Yeah.
Like, we're not religious, but we are spiritual. And we joke about the Mother Earth and like things like that. But a lot of the people who lived in Seattle said, like, we don't go to church, but we are spiritual. And to me, that just, I don't know, that says a lot as we're going to get into this conversation as to what God is already kind of priming the ground for his work to happen in the city.
These are interesting demographics for friends of ours that listen from other states that talk about Seattle. they when they narrowed down the why of these stats, and again, the second least churched area in America is San Francisco, and then a very distant third is Boston. So really, the two least church regions in America are really the Bay Area and the Seattle area. Here are the similarities in those two areas. There is diversity in the Seattle area, but we don't have a lot of African American diversity. In fact, they were saying that 6% of the Seattle area is black, and that I'm trying to read what the stat is. 35% of black people nationally never attend church. So
Wow.
black people, by statistically, 65% of them attend church. So when you have a place that's less racially diverse, there's less church. We also know that Hispanics go to church, over 60%, and Seattle is very low Hispanic population. And this is just from the stats from the article. The other interesting fact is that it's 45% of the people that live in Seattle are under the age of 30. 39. And so it's this, it actually says they're between the ages of 18 to 39. It's 42% of the entire population. So they're firmly millennials. A lot don't have children yet. We know that demographic is the least church demographic in America right now.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a revival going on with Gen Z. They're starting to come back to church and faith and things like that. But that is the why behind this statistic. And Ariel, I think, hit on what is the most important part is people's response to this. So when you realize, and we live here, we raise children here. Seattle is very secular.
Yeah.
There are lots of values that are cultural values in Seattle that we do not share, even as parents, followers of Jesus. And that provides a little bit of a conundrum. What would you say, Ariel, is the challenge as a mom with two little kids when in the traditional Seattle accept everything tolerance value?
Sure. I was actually I was just diving into this idea and watching a few videos online. I think the term acceptance is really interesting because we use that a lot, especially in Seattle. There's a lot of like, accept everything. And realizing that love is actually not acceptance. Loving something is calling it higher. And so I think when it comes to our kids, we love them enough to call them higher and not be afraid of what's around them. I mean, they're aware of the things that happen. I mean, you were jokingly mad at me for not watching the Oscars the other day. But that was because I had put on the Emmys around my kids, because I thought it's just the Emmys, like it's not a big deal. And there were multiple conversations I had to have with my 4-year-old after the Emmys because of the content that was just in there. So we're raising our kids in a world, not just in Seattle, but in a world overall that is counterintuitive to the gospel. And I think that there's a great win in that because we get to teach our kids what it looks like to live differently, and why. And I haven't found it so much of a struggle yet. Now we're not in school yet. So I think there's elements to that. Our kids are very sheltered at this point. They go to church and home, and that's pretty much it. So they don't have a lot of awareness of what's out there. But I think as they get older and as those conversations happen, even just our conversations with Linya about homelessness and it's a difficult conversation to have with a 4-year-old because they don't understand everything. But trying to make her aware of the world and then aware of how Jesus enters into that space versus how do we walk away from it? How do we get away from this space? How do we enter into it and bring Jesus is mostly what we're trying to teach. So
one of the things that I try to challenge parents with, and again, when you raise kids in this culture that is very secular, very accepting, where there's things everywhere that you've got to sit down and explain to your kids
constantly.
And so a lot of parents run away from that.
Yep.
They're afraid of that. But I actually think when our kids are little in junior high and high school, having them exposed to these things where we still have influence in their life and can teach them
Yep.
to understand different people that might not share our faith, might not share our values, how they view the world with a different worldview, where we still have the opportunity to speak into their life, I would argue is incredibly wiser and safer than just sheltering your kids from all of this, letting them go off to college, and then being exposed to it and shocked with it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we are currently enrolling in private school for right now, but we've always talked about that being for elementary, like early elementary. We are like, they're little, they're young, and I don't want to have to counteract authority figures at this age. But we've always talked about when they hit junior high school, like seeing if that makes more sense for them to be involved in the world at large. Because it's, like you said, I don't want to toss them to the wolves at 18 and be like, good luck. So, we live in an area where it is very different than how we live our faith. I mean, the things our kids hear just walking around the city. I had to explain alcoholism to my child. These are just things that it's like, you don't think that you're going to have to explain homelessness and alcoholism and addiction and LGBTQ plus and racism and
marijuana.
I've had to do all of those things in the last year, and she's 4 years old. So I'm like, and again, we dumb these concepts down, right? I'm not sitting her down and explaining the in-depth parts of all of this, but she's facing those things just being in a restaurant in Seattle because that's normal, And so, the conversation of like, why do they act different? Why do they look different? Like, what is this? And we have to sit and address those things. And I think our posture on that has just been to face it head on, to not ignore it or sweep it under the rug. But to face it in a child appropriate way, and then to coach her how to love people through that.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things that people need to understand is when these stats come out about Seattle, people that live in the suburbs of Seattle think they're excluded from being included in that.
You're not.
They refer to this as the Seattle Metroplex. That's what they refer to it as. So if you actually dive into the article, it's including Pierce all the way to Snohomish County. So for all of you that live in the suburbs, or you live in Bellevue or Kirkland, Mill Creek, Snohomish, and you think, well, that's why we live here and not there, it's including you. These stats are reflective of our entire area. I think Christians that live in the Seattle area have two major options. They either find a group of people that agree with everything they think, that they're, hey, I'm anti our government, they're the problem, we have too much homeless, graffiti, and they complain and they kind of rally together to say we are going to be the, us four, no more remnant that's going to hold on. There's that crew. And we know there are churches throughout Western Washington that their banner is fight the power.
Absolutely.
And then there's this other remnant of Christians that think we're going to step back and totally view ourselves as missionaries.
Yep.
We are going to view this as our mission field. We accept that our neighborhood, 1 out of every 10 households goes to church.
Yep.
It's a little bit less, a little bit more than that, but it's basically less than 2 out of every 10 households have any sort of faith like ours. And basically where you live, God has called you to be a missionary in your sphere of influence. And there's churches that do that. And those are the extreme responses. Yeah. We at Venture very clearly, Tony, have gone what direction?
Yeah, we decided to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So rather than tell people, get out of Seattle, don't spend time in Seattle, hey, let's go plant campuses in Dallas, which if you're planting a church in Dallas, God bless your heart. Is that how they say it, Greenie?
Bless your heart.
Bless your heart. You're from there.
And be real. So nationally, when you hear of people planting a church in Seattle versus we're going to go plant in Nashville, or we're going to plant in Dallas, or we're going to plant in the Phoenix area, Phoenix, Dallas, and Nashville are going to be church planting stories that you're going to hear about at conferences.
Sure.
Because it's going to start with 0 people and have 2,000 in 3 years.
Yeah.
But when we talk about 0 to 200 in 3 years, that is 200 highly educated people that have never stepped foot in their entire life.
Yeah.
These are not people that are getting resaved again.
Yep. Or just looking for the
Yeah.
next cool church to go to.
No, it is. And not to throw shade on my buddies that pastor in those areas, and I've got many, but the reality is most of my friends, their baptisms are people that are getting rebaptized
Yeah.
for the 5th time.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Where here we see people that they are 2, 3, 4 generations removed from anyone in their family ever going to church. Like they don't know the basic plot of scripture around here.
This is a post-Christian society that we're in right now, and a post-Christian part of, I mean, I think the entire nation is post-Christian, but specifically where we're at, and you said it so well, we're not throwing shade at other church planners or churches. I mean, I'll be really honest with you guys. All my friends that are my age planting churches in different areas, on social media at least, they get way more celebrated
Yeah.
than us being like, hey, we're going to Seattle.
It's
like,
the
it's
difference
not,
between like, wow, you're a church planter in this area versus like, oh, you're church planting there. So like those
But
are
you
like
nailed
the
it.
very
Like,
different.
the large
responses.
churches in Seattle. When I say Seattle, I'm not talking Snohomish or Bothell. I'm saying city proper, Northgate all the way through down to downtown
Well, and Soto and all
in
that.
Soto. So the largest churches right now, I think one of them is at about 120 people. The second largest, I think, is at about 90. You have a couple.
There's a couple that are
And
doing okay.
I'm talking, these are Protestant churches. I'm not talking like the Catholic Church always has tons of people, and like Lutheran, and obviously Lutherans have tons of people. Well, not really. But I'm talking like traditional evangelical church plants within the last 10 years.
Yeah.
These are the churches that just don't have a lot of people at them. But you know who they do have? 120, 80 people have never given their life to Christ until now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the stat that was staggering to me. So what kind of began, like I would say, Venture's journey into the heart of Seattle, for us, this started with the 3 of us, we love Vegas.
Yeah.
We were
Still do.
We were like we were going all in Vegas.
Still do.
And it was the least shocking thing for Venture because Venture knew Pastor Brandon loves Vegas. The staff's always going to Vegas. We're eventually going to have Venture Vegas. And we were heading that direction. And we really, the Holy Spirit kind of stopped us mid-tracks with kind of just the reality that, hey, everybody's planting in Vegas and Houston and Dallas and Nashville and Phoenix. And yeah, there's mega churches in every single direction.
Yeah.
And here was the first step, and then I'll share the second one too. But the first step was I saw a stat that said 10 years ago in the greater Seattle city limits, like you're talking about, 10 years ago, there were 21 churches over 1,000 in the city limits of Seattle. Fast forward 10 years later, there are 0. You were talking about it like there, like, and so we were celebrating 21 churches over 1,000 in the. We're picking on Dallas a lot, which is the most churched area in America. In the Dallas area, there's 21 churches over 10,000.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty bad.
so
And it's not for population difference, right? Like, I think that's the thing. Sometimes you can go, well, there's more people. There's not. There's a ton of people. Like, I don't know the exact statistics
You're going to
on.
get fact check on that.
No, but I'm saying like proportionately, it's not like, oh, they have churches of tens of thousands because they have
Sure.
tens of thousands of more people.
No, this article is based on the 15 largest metropolitan areas in America.
Right.
So they're all like, these are the
They're all
15
dense.
largest. This is where everybody in America lives, in these 15 areas. The last step in the why for us was, even in spite of these stats, Tony and Ariel are very passionate about Vegas. We're at full steam in that direction.
Really passionate about sunshine.
There was this moment with Jesus, and I had just finished an entire series adventure through the book of Acts, and I had quoted that verse where the disciples were being sent to Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. And I felt like the Holy Spirit challenged me with, why are you going to the ends of the earth before you reach Jerusalem? And I knew he was talking about downtown Seattle. And I was like, Jesus, because I don't like Seattle. I don't even drive into Seattle. Every time I go into Seattle, my car gets broken into. And I felt like I was creating the same narrative, continuing the narrative that everybody else had, that everybody had done the mass exodus from Seattle for. And it was just kind of in that moment, I just thought there's a little bit of truth to, if we're going to have our main campus be in the Seattle area, we should reach Jerusalem. And then that led towards the Holy Spirit really changing your guys' heart. Why don't you describe that process?
I mean, yeah, we were ready to go all in on Vegas. We had come back and told you we're going to go all in on Vegas. I kind of Ariel and I both threw the gauntlet down with Jesus. We didn't give him much time. We didn't have a lot of time to think through this because it was end of sabbatical. We needed to figure out, okay, if we're going to go do Vegas, we got to get ready to go do Vegas. So we gave Jesus 24 hours. We met with you, and you said, hey, go pray about it over the weekend, come back, and let's talk about it. Because you were in full support of Vegas, but you had also said, hey, I want you to consider Seattle. All it took was one date night sitting on a bench in Roosevelt, watching people walk by. And I don't say this often. I heard the voice of God as clear as day. I don't say that often because I don't hear his voice in that way normally. And the phrase I kept hearing was, these are sheep without a shepherd. Eternity is at stake. I heard that phrase twice. And I just I remember, not to be dramatic, I just looked at Ariel. She looked at me. We both started crying because I felt like, I think the Holy Spirit just spoke to both of us individually. And we just looked at each other and said, we need to do this. Why are we are running? Yeah.
Well, I look at the strategy of the Holy Spirit too. Yeah. So God starts doing this shift in my heart. He starts doing a shift in your heart. And at the same time, our creative director at our church comes and meets with me and said, hey, I got kind of this bizarre idea for some swag. What do you think? And it was a slight variation of what we ended up coming up with, the whole I Found God in Seattle. And so then you have this I Found God in Seattle, totally compelling campaign. And he and I were doing a photo shoot for it. We were filming a bunch of videos and we're going through Seattle. And there is this picture. I think I was at Gasworks Park and the Space Needle was in the background. And he sent me the picture so I could post it on my social media. And I just started reflecting on the years of living in Seattle. Like I moved here when I was in first grade and I've always complained about Seattle. Yeah. Like I've always complained about the sports. And then, and I just thought, what is it about this place that you grow up in that you are always conflicted about, but you always come back to? Because I had moved away, never thought I would come back, and ended up coming back here to plant a church. And then we're going to Vegas, and now we're planting in Seattle. What is it that always pulls you back home? And it was in that moment I just thought, what if I started viewing Seattle differently? Yeah. Like I just started having a good attitude about it. And I started speaking differently. And then we all talked. Yep. And we said, let's do this big I Found God in Seattle campaign. Let's just, instead of highlighting all the stuff that the national media is highlighting about Seattle, Chopped and the graffiti and the crime and the businesses leaving and the mass exodus of people, let's start talking about person after person that is radically finding Jesus. And let's start highlighting that. And let's just see if we can change the narrative a little bit. Now, remember, that was in September. So
that was only a few months ago.
It feels like so much life has happened.
This is what I'm saying.
A year's worth.
Do you realize we launched this campaign? It goes pseudo-viral nationally. Yeah. I mean, I have people from around the nation that want gear. I Found God in Seattle gear to everybody in the Dominican Republic. Like, everybody wants the gear. They think it's super cool. They like it. But I look at it and I think a few people, and it started this domino effect. Yeah. Our superintendent for our network gets super excited about Seattle.
We'll talk about that.
All of these other pastors in our network get excited about Seattle. And the next thing you know, 6 months later, this article drops. By the way, if this article would have dropped in August, it would have been all, that's why I hate Seattle. But now you have this remnant of people that are like, bring it on.
Love it. Yeah.
In 5 years, we are not even going to be in the top 10. In 10 years, we won't even be on this list anymore. And that is what I love. And it all happened because like a large group of us just decided we're here. We're going to bury our heart here. And we're going to go for it. I want to highlight churches that have jumped on board in a second, but I want to quote, I'm going to quote Kyle Veach. I got to look up. Kyle Veach pastors View Church, which is a church in Snohomish, Clearview area in our region. And Kyle is like you and I, that we've been here, we've faithfully served, we've had lots of opportunities to go other places, but we keep staying here. But at the same time, we watch all these people that we know and love move,
Costa Mesa, Rancho Cucamonga,
complain. We
Vegas.
turn down other opportunities. And so Kyle and I were bantering back and forth about how we're lifers. And he says, Brandon, here's what I want to do. Preach the gospel in the Seattle area, die, and be forgotten. And only have Jesus be remembered. And I just thought,
That's
beautiful,
That's it.
Kyle.
That's it.
If we have a group of pastors that view the Seattle area that way, we will change this for our children.
100%.
And then the other thing too, if this is the most difficult area in America to plant churches, to pastor, you don't send Gardner Minshew there.
He's a Raider. Raiders
No
roll.
way, man. This is Joe Burrow goes here. Like
Don't
this
give
is
us Joe. Don't give us Joe.
okay. Patrick Mahomes.
Give us
I
Mahomes.
can't tell if
Give
we're
us
actually
Mahomes.
talking about sports or if this is like a.
It's a sports metaphor.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah, yeah.
metaphor?
Give us,
Okay.
Basically,
give us Travis
I'm saying you can't put the bench warmer in
Okay.
Seattle.
I
That
thought that's what you
person's
were
gonna
saying,
fail.
but I
This
was
is
confused.
like
Give us Mahomes.
like you take Tony and Ariel. You take Tony and Ariel. You put them in Dallas. You guys have 3,000 people in a church plant. You put you in Seattle, and you're gonna succeed.
We're gonna see revival of 100.
but it's gonna look different.
So I want to, before we dive into those churches, I want to give a huge shout out to our church Venture.
For sure.
I will say this, almost every single conversation I have had with Venture family who attend all of our campuses since we launched I Found God in Seattle, I have yet to hear a negative word about Seattle. Our entire church,
Yeah.
which has, by the way, conservatives, liberals, moderates, all of the above. Our church is a great melting pot. Not a single negative comment about Seattle. Our entire launch team, we have 23 individuals on our launch team. Every single one of them have openly confessed that they hated Seattle, were looking at leaving Seattle. Do you know what happened the other night, PB? We were at our gathering. After our gathering, we always go to Dick's for some reason after like our hangouts.
It's the greatest.
It really is until
If
2
I
hours
could
later.
eat one food for the rest of my life and that was it, it would be Dick's.
Dick's Drive-In's incredible.
Would hurt.
But anyways,
If I could not get sick from eating it or gain weight.
There we go.
our entire team, like I'd say 75% of them, was on Zillow at Dick's looking at apartments in Seattle.
Yeah.
So people who used to say, I hate Seattle, I'm leaving, I'm going to the east side, are literally thinking, we need to move to Seattle.
When you change your perspective on it, though, it really is such an amazing city and place
It's
to
beautiful.
live. Like you get it is so incredible. And I mean, I think I was such a huge proponent of like I hate the city. Not the city in general, but Seattle. But I think now, like looking at it's at the forefront of culture. It's at the forefront of like people look to Seattle for what people do in government, in culture, in
Business,
So I'm like, imagine if we actually were to change the narrative of Seattle. Like I just think about the ripple effect that has nationally and internationally. There's so much like why not start here and then see what God has to do in San Francisco and in Boston and all of the other cities that ripples to.
I will say
because
this.
they look at us.
I will say this too, in regards to the pastors of Seattle, I have never felt
So
more
wonderful.
accepted and welcomed and part of a bigger team, bigger than me, bigger than even our denomination, than with the pastors of Seattle.
The pastors in Seattle respond like missionaries in a region. Missionaries who go to Africa, the Philippines, wherever, Dominican Republic, they're not competing against each other.
Nope.
No.
They are partnering with each other to reach that area.
Yeah.
And that is my favorite thing. And you even feel this in the suburbs. Like there is more unity cross-denominationally among ministers in the greater Seattle area than in the 20 years that I've been here. Like we feel like we're in this thing together. And one of the number one things that we always say to each other is, there are plenty of people for all of us to reach. Like there could be 100 churches of 5,000 and we would not make a dent. And I think it's the 1.98 million people in this region that don't go to church.
Right.
It's insane.
Yeah. The polarizing figures have left our city. Polarizing pastors have left our city. And then pastors that do isolate themselves right now typically are pastors who I think they're here, but I think that, they've had some mild success here, but they're not ones to be like, man, I'm all about seeing Seattle come to Jesus.
Yeah.
Truly. Like at least from the narrative I've heard from some of the larger ones in our area, if you even want to call churches large out here anymore. Yeah. But hey, can I shout out a couple? So it's really difficult to shout out all the churches that financially supported us. So when we started fundraising for Seattle, I got some negative feedback from some churches. They're like, well, you're just a campus. Aren't you guys just gonna be like a video venue and just put on just have a worship person and then just put on a video of Brandon? I'm like, whoa, chill, man. Like if you think that's what church planting is, I understand that video venues are used. I said, no, we're starting a faith gathering in Seattle. And yeah, we might have a video here and there, but we have live preaching, live worship, kids ministry. We're in the city. We are a church plant. We've decided to be under a mother church because that is, I believe, the future of church planting, by the way, is you're always going to have a parent church. So why would you do it on your own? Unless you feel a clear conviction from God, I would rather have leadership over me. We've had over 20 churches give $5,000.
So let me just pause there. That in itself is unheard of because again, this is a campus of a much larger church.
Yeah.
And again, it is a church plant, but the fact that 20 churches have said, we believe in this so much that we will seed into it. Now, if you understand giving to a church plant, if you're a church planter out here, I want you to imagine at least 20 churches giving you $5,000. I don't know if there's 10 other guys or gals that can say that broad of a donor base has happened for them. So I would say, first off, that shows the unity of the churches in this region.
Because they are all from this region.
If someone has the guts to go into the heart of this city, we are with you. You want to highlight some of the larger churches.
I will say this, the majority of them have come out of the Assemblies of God. Our superintendent, Don Ross, we are a part of his life that brings a lot of excitement to him right now.
Yep.
He legitimately too would call churches for me and say, you need to meet with Tony. So I'm thankful for what
I will say this. You are the most Assemblies of God person I know. We call you Mr. Assemblies of God on our
really
staff.
not.
Mr. AG.
I'm not a Bible cadet. I don't do Rangers, Royal Rangers.
No, you're the victory story of what I think most churches and lead pastors would say they're looking for in somebody is like somebody who doesn't know Jesus, gets saved young, does a program through the church, becomes a pastor on staff, and then goes out and takes that mission forward. I think it's very much
And you married a former missionette.
I did. You were a missionette. You are an AG
I did
girl.
all of that.
You grew up in
I
that
was super
stuff.
AG. I did fine arts.
I'm kind of thankful I didn't grow up in that.
I didn't even know you were a
video team.
missionette, but I felt
could
like the
tell.
Holy Spirit
You could tell.
shared that
No,
with me
I
in
had
that
the
moment.
charm bracelet, that
I'm glad I grew up watching SpongeBob.
I also watched SpongeBob, but not Harry Potter because that was the enemy.
And I want to highlight 3 churches specifically and say this. Listen, the dollar amount, some churches said, Pastor, all we can give you is $1,000. This is the best we can do in the season. And I am so honored,
the widow's
so humbled.
mite.
It's not about the dollar amount. There were 3 churches specifically that said, we are super rallying because this is going to be in Seattle. Like, we want to see the city get saved. One of them is not even in this region. So Inspire Church, pastored by Mike Kai in Hawaii. Mike Kai has kind of been a friend. We befriended through social media. He's mentored me here and there a couple times. Found out what I was doing in Seattle. Said we need we need you to apply for an application with they have like a nonprofit organization, and they became one of our largest financial givers.
The cool thing about that is they're not even AG, they're Foursquare.
Oh, they're Foursquare.
And they gave generously to us.
They did. True Grace Church down in Lacey, pastored by Peter Dagon, gave exponentially, and all I did was show up and talk in a missions moment. I didn't even preach that Sunday, but they were so compelled by what God is doing. The largest financial contributor to Venture Seattle outside of Venture Church is from a church that I had no relationship with their lead pastor. He didn't know me. I really didn't know him. We knew of each other. They gave almost $30,000 in a Sound Life church pastored by Caleb and Jeanette Bryant down south in the Puyallup-Tacoma region. Unbelievable. I am blown away by that church. And Pastor Caleb has been adamant. He goes, dude, he literally said, if we have a church planner who's saying, I'm willing to go to Seattle, he said, I'm willing to throw down cash for this. Because no one else, all the churches that come say, Pastor, will you support us financially?
They want to plant in Bellevue.
And all these other regions, which, praise God, good, go for it. But no one, and I think, honestly, too, I don't want to be fact check on this. I can't think of the last time someone in the Assemblies of God has said, I'm going all in on Seattle.
No, the amount of times somebody says, hey, have you met so-and-so? They planted a church in the last year or two. Where at? Bellevue. You know how many Bellevue church plants?
Or it's the east side.
And I get it. I want to live in Bellevue too. I mean, everybody
Kirkland.
wants, you come from another state and you think, I'm going to plant in Bellevue. Those people need Jesus.
They do.
Here's what is amazing to me about Sound Life is they were just generous. And these weren't even people that I knew.
Yeah.
So I had no connection with them. I don't even know if I've ever met Caleb.
You need to.
And so I want to just say, Caleb, if you ever listen to this podcast, as one pastor to another, it was very honoring. And it just showed what a kingdom mindset you had, that you were willing to support something just on faith, just by belief in the mission. And one pastor to another, it meant a lot that you did that.
Yeah. So we're really thankful. And like I said, it's not about the dollar amount. There are dozens of people from Venture Mill Creek who said, I'm giving part of my bonus to this. I'm giving our first, by the way, they will never brag about this. Our first financial gift to Seattle, apart from Ariel and I gave $1 because I wanted to make sure it worked online. The first financial gift we received was from Jake and Jackie, missionaries, and they gave to Venture Seattle. That was the first gift we received, was from people out in the mission field that our church financially supports.
Let's talk through a couple things. Your first service is Easter weekend.
Saturday, March 30th at 10 a.m.
Tell everybody about the first service. What's planned?
Yeah, we're really excited.
Good time. We're hyped.
We're excited. We want to be a blessing to the community.
Yeah.
We didn't want to put on a service and just say, come to us. So we figured let's do stuff for them.
Yeah.
You want to chat through that?
Yeah. So I went on kind of like all the message boards and, published like publications of like what's happening Easter weekend in the Wedgwood area. Mainly because I was actually looking for something of like, how can we take our kids to go be a part of something that's going on? And there was nothing going on. So I was like, cool, let's do something then. Like if nothing's happening, people are looking for something to do, fun for their kids, an egg hunt and all of that. So we decided that it didn't make any sense to ask people to come to an Easter service at 4 p.m. on a Sunday, which is our regular service time, because I don't want to be there Easter Sunday at 4 p.m. Nobody does. And so instead we moved our launch service to 10 a.m. on Saturday and are coupling it with this like huge after party with bounce houses and bunnies to pet and the Easter bunny and egg hunt and all of those things to kind of make it a blessing to the families in the area, because there are a lot of families in the Wedgwood community. And so we kind of just put it out there as like, it's an event and a service to kind of get people gathered together and get people excited about what we're doing.
Is Morgan bringing Yogi to pet?
No, actually we have a little bunch of bunnies coming from the Logan
You
family.
don't want to have Yogi there?
No, okay, this is actually kind of funny, and I don't think they listen to this, so they won't judge me. I was doing graphics for another church that I contract for, and they were like, we're doing a petting zoo. Can you put this photo of a lizard? And I was like, when I think of a petting zoo, I think of like, especially for Easter, I think like bunnies or goats or like something soft and cute and cuddly. And they're literally doing a petting zoo of lizards. And I thought
Iguanas.
that's just really funny.
Hey, there's nothing that 4-year-old Linny wants to cuddle with more
And a lizard.
than a lizard.
It was like, I just don't know if I'd call it a petting zoo at that point because
No.
it's like,
It's like scare children.
yeah.
We need to wrap this up here pretty
Sorry,
soon.
yeah.
No, we need to wrap up the podcast, but we're excited. So if you're listening and you are in Seattle,
Saturday, March 30th, 10 a.m.
I want to know, before we do wrap up, I want to know, what are you guys doing to get the word out?
oh man, what are we not doing at this point?
My expertise over here.
We were in staff meeting and there was all these little handwritten invites to the community, and Cole and I were sitting next to you and we were stuffing envelopes for you.
So one of the
Obviously
things-
you're doing that. Can you tell us what you're doing with those?
Yeah, so those are handwritten cards. We did some, Christian Limbeck and Ariel and I did some studies on marketing. We learned actually door hangers have not been as effective recently.
I throw mine away, so
So what we had decided was, instead of ordering 200 door hangers, let's do 200 handwritten cards from our team to the neighbors who we're trying to reach.
Okay.
So we're doing
So when you say neighbors, is that like in the radius
Radius.
around
Yeah,
the church?
in the radius around the church. We are doing over 500 Easter flyers.
yeah.
that
So we're doing
all handing
Easter
out.
flyers that we're handing out tonight, actually, before our dinner party. So we have a gathering tonight for just whoever wants to come to a dinner party. And then we're like, before that, we're doing a prayer walk and handing out Easter flyers. And then post Easter, we'll hand out the handwritten cards to the neighborhood, inviting them back for our regular 4 p.m. service. And then we're doing a lot of online marketing. as
Online marketing. We ordered tons of A-frames. Like, I'm not gonna lie, spending money for the church, I'm like, this is exciting. But when it was all on
Expensive.
A-frames and signage,
I have a cool marketing story though that I want to share, because I think, when we think about marketing, we think about getting as many people and really, yes, I want as many people to see all of our ads as possible. But one of the strategies that I was like, I'm going to try this out and see if it works, and it's been really cool, is we did these sponsored ads on Instagram and Facebook. And so we've been getting a few new followers on our Venture Seattle account. And so when we get new followers, I go through and look like, are they already connected to Venture Mill Creek? Are they, do they kind of already go to our church? Where do they live? Kind of just based on the bio and all of that. And if they kind of lived in the Seattle area but weren't connected to Venture, I personally, through the Venture Seattle Instagram, DM'd them and just like gave a personal invitation of like, thanks for following us. We'd love to see you. And we've actually gotten a few families who have said that they plan to join us for Easter because of those personal invitations, and they have no connections to Venture. So it's really cool because it's not just, and now I've seen their face, I know who they are, and we're able to connect, like hopefully see them on Saturday. So
we were adamant with social media that we would hit Gen Z, millennials, and Gen Xers. So we have a TikTok, we have our Instagram, and we have a Facebook.
yeah.
And that we would reach all 3 people groups through that. Because that's what,
Yeah.
Gen Xers, PB,
And
you
the
guys are on
main-
Facebook.
The main
I like
issue with our-
Instagram.
I know
like
you do.
Instagram
Because
too.
you're a millennial at heart.
Our main thing with marketing, and this I think is a little counterintuitive to how a lot of church plants do marketing, we are intentionally not marketing to Christians. We're intentionally not marketing to people who already know Jesus. And that changes the way we talk, the way we communicate. We're going to do an entire series on questions, like a Instagram, like TikTok series on questions people have about faith and the Bible, to really engage an audience that isn't churched. Because what we don't want to do is be the next cool thing in Seattle, where the Christians that are already in that cohort of Seattle are like moving around to different churches. It's very common. And they go to the coolest thing
Those
on the
churches
block.
flame out.
And we don't want to be that. We want to be the place where people find Jesus for the first time. And so a lot of that is addressing early on the stigma that is already placed on church, the questions people have on faith, of even why do these things matter. We're doing an entire post right before Easter about like, why does Easter matter? Like, why do Christians celebrate Easter? And so instead of acting as if we already are talking to a churched audience, we're acting as if people who are on our page have never heard of Jesus. And I think that's going to give us the opportunity to speak into a community of, what is it, 80% of people who don't go to church, who don't have a faith background, and not just be the cool thing on the block for Christians.
Listen, we can get 200 Christians in that church overnight. I just don't think that's a win for the kingdom.
If you are a Christian and you want to come, you
Please
can
come support.
Yes.
but we want you to get busy.
Yep, we're going to put you
Please.
to work.
You're not allowed to just sit there.
Nope. We don't need more.
The mission field, you got
We
to
love
get
you.
working.
And
So is the plan for that first service, are you doing my Easter sermon on this?
everything we're doing is what we're doing at Venture Mill Creek.
Oh, that Easter sermon will be gold for an
super
unsaved
excited.
community.
Super excited. Yeah. Worship set's the same for the most part.
Might change a song or two. But yeah.
Everything, kids curriculum, the messages. So everything that we do here on Sundays at Mill Creek, we will do almost to a T in Mill Creek, in Seattle. Just change some of the language here and there. Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm very proud of you guys.
Thank you.
And you're not choosing the easy route. You're not choosing the route that is going to make you instantly Christian famous.
Yeah.
But you're choosing a route that when the Holy Spirit breathes on this, you're going to do something really significant. And it's part of all of us kind of changing the tide and changing the narrative about Seattle. And we really do believe that that there is a hunger for spiritual things, as Ariel mentioned, in Seattle, and people are coming to Christ. They're not coming to Christ in the thousands at a time, but they're coming to Christ one at a time, and then they're bringing their friends, and then they're getting saved, and they're bringing their family, and they're getting saved. And years from now, we are going to look back at this and be cheering on everything that Jesus has done. I want to ask this as we gear up for this first service, 3 weeks away, 3 Sundays from this Sunday.
Yeah, I know.
How are you feeling?
was
First,
twitching.
Ariel, how are you feeling?
I think I'm way less stressed than Tony. I think he bears a lot of it because this is his full-time job. I'm excited. I'm not nervous. I'm just really at peace with how everything. I think because of how everything has fallen together, it allows us to have a non-anxious excitement, and because it's just so God, like his hand has been on everything. I mean, we even just in this last week have had just small confirmations for our family of, schools and housing stuff and things that are just falling into place for everything with Seattle. So it just feels very right. And even the way that we launched this service, we weren't supposed to launch until September.
Building,
we weren't supposed to launch till September, and then God was just like, no, here you go. And so
teammates.
And we feel so supported. I think that's the other thing. I have had so many of my friends and people around me asking, how can I come? Can I be a support? Can I be there? My family has even said, hey, can we come up for Easter weekend and help support? And just
You're going to come all the way from Chehalis?
My mom and my
They should commute every week.
I told my sister she should. She lives in Lacey. I was like, just commute. It's fine. But yeah, I feel very supported. I feel very rallied around and supported, and excited. I think our team is so excited. So that's fun to just breathe in that energy. And yeah, things aren't going to go perfectly, and attendance might not be exactly what we like. It's not going to be thousands, but I think for whoever shows up, thousands.
Put you down in the Holy Spirit like that.
Need 7 services in that building.
Come on,
thousands
why can't
of people.
he?
But yeah. Oh, gosh. But yeah, excited, hopeful, just at peace with what God is doing, I think is the overall feeling for me. I know you're a little bit more stressed.
Yeah, I think I'm averaging 4 hours of sleep. Not that I don't trust Jesus, not that I have a lack of
You have
peace.
a lot on your mind.
I have a lot on my mind. It's there are things that you have told me, bro, get ready. You're about to be a campus pastor. You're operating as a lead pastor. Get ready. That I was like, yeah, PB for sure. I'll get ready. That now I'm like, oh my goodness.
I think
I've
it's like
never
having a
bared the weight of
kid.
this stuff.
You can't, you
It's
don't
different.
understand it until you do it. People can warn
I
you and
commend
tell you, but you can't understand
I've never been in your shoes. I'm still not in your shoes, but I've getting a kind of a glimpse of your shoes. I don't like your shoes.
You don't have a Kellen to bail you out of everything.
I don't have a Kellen. I will say this.
We do have a lot of staff people who help bail us out of some
favorite part right now of ministry is the 23 individuals who are all in on Seattle, I leave every meeting refreshed. I don't leave every meeting going, oh gosh, we got a lot of work to do, dude. They're
so excited.
Our team is so incredible. So shout out to everyone listening who's on our team.
We had a member of our team come to us with a like multi-page document of how they thought of ideas and dreams they had for the kids ministry. Like multi-pages. I mean, the document alone is probably worth $1,000. They gave it to us.
Yeah. So, and everyone's been helping. I will say this, our Mill Creek staff's been unreal. Like David and Rachel and Cole they've been like, what do you need? How can we staff? Cole's doing a team training with all our simulation guest gear. David met with Parker and I. We're figuring out worship. Rachel's been helping me with marketing stuff and signage, and like everyone's all hands on deck. Yeah. So it doesn't feel like it's just Tony. It's like all of us.
Yeah, we're all in this thing together.
We're all in this thing together.
It's one of the number one reasons that I tell a church planner, you have to give up some autonomy to be a campus of a larger church, but you don't do it alone.
Yeah.
I don't feel alone. I feel like we're all in this thing together. I mean, we have families who are like, hey, we're going to just come for the first 2 months just to serve.
To kind of wrap this up, for those of you listening, if you're a potential praying through church planning, I dare you to plant in the San Francisco area.
Do it.
I dare you to plant in New York. I dare you to plant in Boston. Don't give in and go where it's easy. The two least church states in America are Maine and Vermont. I dare you to go into the heart of the areas where we actually need churches, not to go and try to re-church the South. Not that I have a problem with re-churching the South, but that's easy. I dare you to go where it's hard. Go hard or go home.
Oh, gauntlet was just thrown down.
We will also take additional church planters in Seattle if you so decide.
Hey, I met an epic church planter at the Ed Stetzer thing who planted a church in the heart of Berkeley.
Cool.
I mean, that guy should be teaching at every church planting conference because that's legit and hard. Anyways, I'm proud of you guys.
Thank you. Thanks for being our pastor.
Want to wind us up?
Yep. Thanks for being our pastor and supporting us. Hey, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. We have fun excitement. First off, our YouTube audience, we love that you're with us. We're actually now going to start dropping episodes simultaneous YouTube and audio on Fridays, not just Thursdays. So get ready for that. We're going to be dropping on
Friday. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel, please.
And Pastor Brandon is going to be on sabbatical here pretty soon for a few months. Our elder board wants him and Di to go on sabbatical, and we're so in support of that, which means we have some really incredible guests coming on the show. Should I even name drop a few of them?
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the sabbatical
We'll do the sabbatical one, later. Hey, we love you guys. Thank you for being with us. Don't forget, like, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple. And don't forget,
Jesus is the hope of the world.
See you guys next week.
Let's make him famous.